Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about the Canadian nuclear industry and Cameco. I'm sorry I'm not able to join you today. If you have any questions following the presentation, please send them to King and I'd be happy to respond to them. I'd like to start by providing a brief overview of our company. Cameco is a Canadian company that is one of the largest providers of nuclear fuel on the planet. Utilities around the world rely on our nuclear fuel products to generate power in safe, reliable, carbon-free nuclear reactors. Our Tier 1 uranium operations, located in Canada and Kazakhstan, have the licensed capacity to produce more than 53 million pounds of uranium annually on a 100% basis. Our uranium production capacity is backed by about 1.1 billion pounds of total resources, with more than 40% in the proven and probable reserves category. We are also a leading supplier of uranium refining, conversion, and fuel manufacturing services. Our fuel services operations are located in Ontario, Canada. In addition, Cameco has a 24% interest in Global Laser Enrichment, which is testing a third-generation technology that, if successful, will use lasers to commercially enrich uranium. As we seek to bring the benefits of clean nuclear energy to the world, we are committed to delivering our products safely and responsibly. I would like to now touch on nuclear energy in Canada. Nuclear power plants have been producing electricity in Canada since the early 1960s. Nuclear is the second largest generation type in Canada, accounting for 15% of generation. Hydro is the largest, accounting for about 57% of generation. All other forms of electricity generation, including natural gas, coal, oil, and renewables, each accounted for about 10% or less of generation. In Ontario, nuclear is the largest source of power generation in the province, accounting for an estimated 60% of total electricity produced. Ontario phased out coal completely in 2014 and attributes this as a major reason for the improvement in air quality in their province. In December 2018, Canada announced regulations to phase out traditional coal-fired electricity by 2030, as well as greenhouse gas regulations for natural gas-fired electricity. This will support Canada's transition to cleaner energy, create well-paying jobs in the electricity sector, and support the goal of 90% non-emitting electricity by 2030. There are two provinces in Canada that have nuclear power generation, Ontario and New Brunswick. The province of Ontario made a $26 billion investment in nuclear reactor refurbishments. This was bolstered by a federal investment of $1.2 billion in infrastructure at Canadian Nuclear Laboratories and investment by New Brunswick to establish an SMR reactor research cluster and a regulatory approach that is open to innovation. Two utilities run the nuclear power plants in Ontario, Bruce Power and Ontario Power Generation. Bruce Power is Canada's only private sector nuclear generator. Over the next 2 decades, Bruce Power's multi-year investment program will see billions of dollars invested in refurbishing 6 of the company's 8 units, adding approximately 30 to 35 years of operational life while also meeting the energy needs of the province in parallel. The refurbishment schedule starts with Unit 6 in 2020 based on a 48-month duration. Once Unit 6 is successfully completed, the plan will be for successive units to have improvements over this schedule window and the duration shortened. Ontario Power Generation is a public company wholly owned by the province of Ontario. Their Darlington station is currently undergoing a $12.8 billion refurbishment investment that is designed to allow for an additional 30 years of continued operation. In April 2020, Darlington 2 achieved first criticality after refurbishment that has taken over 3 years to complete, including disassembling and rebuilding the reactor. Darlington 3 refurbishment, which was planned to begin in May in 2020, was deferred until later this year. This was done to help ensure stable electricity supplies during the COVID-19 pandemic. New Brunswick Power's 635 megawatt Point Lepreau reactor provides about 25% of the province's power. Refurbishment work began on the reactor in 2008 and returned to operation in 2012. Turning to SMRs. In Canada, an SMR roadmap was developed in 2018 to answer the question, what's next? It was the result of a 10-month effort that was unlike any other initiative that the sector has ever undertaken. Through the SMR roadmap, representatives from industry, governments, utilities, and enabling partners came together to chart a vision for the next wave of nuclear innovation. This vision was informed by expert analysis as well as dialogues across the country, including initial engagement with Northern and Indigenous communities and organizations. In February 2020, the Canadian government announced it would launch Canada's SMR Action Plan. The Action Plan will be a report outlining the progress and ongoing efforts across Canada to turn the SMR roadmap into reality. There have been a number of activities related to SMRs in a few provinces and by the Canadian nuclear utilities. Looking at the provinces, in December 2019, Saskatchewan, Ontario, and New Brunswick signed a Memorandum of Understanding to coordinate efforts in the hopes of having SMRs in operation across Canada. In August 2020, Alberta announced that they will join the three provinces to support the development of SMRs. Also in 2020, the Saskatchewan government formed a nuclear secretariat with the primary mandate to develop and execute a strategic plan with the goal to deploy their first SMR by 2030. Turning to the Canadian nuclear utilities, they are supporting SMR development as well. In June 2020, Ontario Power Generation, Global First Power, and Ultra Safe Nuclear Corporation announced the formation of the Global First Power Limited Partnership. The new partnership will build, own, and operate a proposed micro-modular reactor at the Chalk River Laboratory site in Ontario. Current hopes are to have this SMR in place by 2026. In 2018, Bruce Power signed a $1 million Memorandum of Understanding with Mining Innovation, Rehabilitation, and Applied Research Corporation and Laurentian University to enhance strategic research opportunities, including the long-term potentials for SMRs. Also in 2018, Bruce Power partnered with NuScale Power to develop a strong business case to introduce NuScale's SMR technology to the Canadian market. In February 2020, New Brunswick Power and Canadian Nuclear Laboratories announced a Memorandum of Understanding to pursue collaboration opportunities in nuclear research, including the development of SMR technology in New Brunswick. Two private companies, Advanced Reactor Concepts and Moltex Energy, committed $5 million each in 2018 to fund activities within New Brunswick to explore the development, licensing, and construction of SMRs at Point Lepreau. And just one quick note, nuclear goes beyond clean generation of power to medical applications. About 40% of the world's single-use medical devices, such as syringes, gloves, implants, and surgical instruments, are sterilized with cobalt-60. Ontario's reactors produce 50% of the world's supply of cobalt-60 isotope. I would like to close by sharing with you what Canada's Minister of Natural Resources had to say about nuclear. The slide has information from the department's website. Recently, the minister has reinforced this sentiment and was quoted in the media as saying, "We have not seen a model where we can get to net zero emissions by 2050 without nuclear. The fact of the matter is that it produces zero emissions." Cameco is ready to be the fuel supplier of choice as Canada and other countries include more nuclear or add nuclear energy to meet their ambitious emission reduction targets. Thanks so much for the opportunity to speak today. I hope you have a great conference.